After being awarded as the world's leading culinary destination for 6 years in a row since 2012, Peru's culinary boom started and it's gained more and more fame. The food festival Mistura, organized every September in Lima, capital of Peru, it's an excellent way of promoting Peruvian food. Unfortunately, not too many people know about it or have the chance to travel to Lima to experience the amazing Peruvian food. It is true that the amount of Latin American immigrants living in the state influences the number of Latin American restaurants they have. Good examples of this case are the state of Florida or California. However, what happens to the people who don't live in a major US city and don't have access to Peruvian restaurants? There are many other places in the US that are in need of a good place to enjoy affordable and authentic Peruvian food, and one of those places is the city of Fort Collins. Fort Collins is known as one of the towns in the US with the highest amount of restaurants per capita, most of them which are highly successful. Then, why there is not a single Peruvian restaurant in this area? Is it feasible to open a Peruvian cuisine in the city of Fort Collins? In this analysis, I would provide several arguments why opening a Peruvian restaurant in Fort Collins will not only be feasible, but also very successful. In order to do this, I will provide my personal experience, given that I was born in Peru and I've been living in the US for a couple years. Peruvian cuisine has influence of Japanese, Indian, Italian, Chinese, and many other cuisines. Given that it's so versatile, it can be displayed in many interesting dimensions. The first one is the traditional and historic cuisine, largely based on oral tradition that embraced and preserved the Peruvian history. The second one is what is known as the new Peruvian cuisine. Both types can be appealing to everyone, and without artifice, it's an authentic fusion. Traditionally, Peruvian cuisine is regionally based with the specific dishes for the coast, highland, and jungle regions. For example, on the coast of Peru, ceviche and seafood are very common ingredients. In the Andes, alpaca, guinea pig, and trout are primary food ingredients, and stews are very popular dishes. In the jungle, river fish, turtle, and tropical fruits comprised the main meals. However, for people who live abroad, the Peruvian food is a fusion food, and they don't make a distinction between the separate types of Peruvian cuisine. After hearing what amazing experience Peruvian food is, I'm sure that at this point you will be curious and willing to try it. In my experience, I've been living in Colorado for almost 2 years, and I have never been in a Peruvian restaurant in the US. In fact, the closest Peruvian restaurant to me is in Longmont, about an hour away. Given that I was born in Peru and I enjoyed their meals for 18 years, I have to admit that their food is one of the things I miss the most about my country. I believe Fort Collins would be the perfect location to open a Peruvian restaurant, given its close proximity to Denver, a huge commercial hub. Opening a restaurant here would be beneficial for the community because it could attract even more tourists to the area. Globalization is a fundamental piece when opening a business that requires products from abroad, and the fact that there are companies dedicated to the transportation of native products, such as the Belmont International Trading Corporation, makes everything easier. The easy access to farmers market to obtain fresh produce and meat in Fort Collins is a really good advantage to open a restaurant here, as freshness is key for most of Peruvian dishes. However, I believe that Peru's greatest culinary gift is not a recipe or an ingredient, but it relies on the passion and the hands of the cook, who has the spirit of inquiry and openness to try alternative ingredients to honor their own country. Let's not prevent the people of Fort Collins to experience the wonders of Peruvian food. I believe it is possible to open a restaurant where commensals will feel like they are breathing the country's soul, the spirit of the Andes, and the rich evolving heritage. Peruvian immigrants in Denver desire Peruvian food primarily as a way of connecting with their home country, and this desire can lead to the creation of Peruvian restaurants and Peruvian food import companies within the Denver area, for example in Fort Collins. Let's make a Peruvian restaurant in the mountains of Fort Collins possible, and make the customers feel like they are in the mountains of the Andes instead.